It clearly can be. Hello everyone, I'm the Enforcer, and welcome to the breaking news. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and support us on Patreon, link in the description below. Today we have breaking news coming out of the Islamic Republic of Iran, as we've been able to hear that the Arak Heavy Water Reactor, the IR-40, has been destroyed in an Israeli airstrike, with the reactor vessel being burst open to the open air, and the reactor assembly being inoperable at this point. We have also been able to hear additional information that Israeli airstrikes have continued to hit throughout the entirety of the Islamic Republic of Iran, including the capital, where we've seen major airstrikes still hitting at this time. We have been able to hear that the Iranian government, or the IRGC as a whole, is now calling for the complete shutdown of all internet access inside of the country to stop the leak of information about Israeli airstrikes and significant damage that is currently being caused. Outside of that, we've also been able to hear that the Islamic Republic of Iran is still heavily floating the idea of closing the Strait of Hormuz, leading to U.S. naval assets making their escape yesterday out of the Persian Gulf and into the open sea, near to the Arabian Sea and the Gulf of Oman. We have also been able to hear that the United States of America is still on the very brink of war with the Islamic Republic of Iran, as another Situation Room meeting is being held at this very time as this video is being recorded on the issue of the Israel-Iran conflict. We have also been able to hear that the United States has been shipping in blood shipments in the events of casualties or injuries, which is largely suggesting that once again the United States is expecting armed conflict in the near future. We have also been able to see Iranian missiles have been continuing to be fired at Israel throughout the day, and we have been able to hear that there has been a decent amount of casualties and a very small amount of fatalities from the attacks yesterday, which were conducted at the Shimona Hospital inside of Be'er Sheva. We've also been able to hear additional information that it appears that the Israeli government is now hell-bent on targeting and assassinating Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader or Ayatollah of Iran, as they are continuing to get more details and information about the attacks from last night. We have also been able to hear that there's been a threat from the Al-Najaba terrorist organization inside of the Republic of Iraq against U.S. forces, bases, and citizens throughout the entirety of the Middle East. We have also been able to hear that the U.S. Special Envoy to Syria has given a warning to Hezbollah to not join the conflict or otherwise face untold consequences. Outside of that, we've also been able to hear in the Russian Federation that it appears that the Russians are having a deteriorating security situation with China, and the short-lived relationship between the Russians and Chinese, even on a light level, appears to be collapsing at this point. We've also been able to hear that Russia has issued a warning against U.S. involvement in Iran, and we have also been able to hear in the area of Orenburg, 1,000 kilometers away from Ukraine, that a significant drone attack is currently being conducted, with the Russians actually believing that these drones weren't fired from Ukraine, but were launched from somewhere inside of Kazakhstan and flew across the border. There is a significant amount of news to be covering from around the world, and moving into our most significant news coverage, we are going to be moving down to the Arak Heavy Water Reactor, the IR-40, just outside of the city of Arak in Iran. Arak is a city that's a little bit confusing to many. Many people do hear Iraq when people say Iraq, but Arak is actually a completely different city in Iran that has no affiliation with the country, just to Iran's west. However, the city of Arak is not the important thing here. It is actually this research reactor right here. This is a heavy water reactor facility, along with a heavy water production plant just next door to the southern side of the compound. This reactor here has been significant for the Iranian nuclear weapons development programs, as we have been able to hear that this reactor appears to be able to produce a large amount of weapons-grade plutonium due to its reaction cycles. We were able to confirm that this system was destroyed in an Israeli airstrike just last night, and we were able to see the reactor dome did take a direct hit, according to Israeli surveillance footage, or largely Israeli reconnaissance footage, showing an Israeli airstrike hitting directly onto the reactor dome itself, which we can see in this clip right here. And we can see a direct hit right there onto the dome of the reactor. And we can also see more hits landing around the area of the reactor dome and facility. And we see more angles of this footage here as well. And we can also see what appears to be the heavy water production facility also getting hit in the airstrike by a third explosion. The Arak Heavy Water Reactor, or the IR-40, as it's actually called by the Islamic Republic of Iran, is a significant research reactor used in the production of weapons-grade plutonium throughout the country. Heavy water reactors such as these actually were crucial for the Allies and the Axis during World War II to attempt to develop or succeed in developing a nuclear weapon. It is actually a matter of fact that the Manhattan Project actually worked with heavy water reactors of almost a similar design as the one here at Iraq to be able to help them to produce the Fat Man and Little Boy atomic bombs, which would be used on Japan near to the end of World War II. The Islamic Republic of Iran has stated that this reactor is not operational, but IAEA officials claim, even back in 2022, when the original statements were made, that the Iranians were deceiving the public and had photoshopped pictures depicting the reactor being filled with concrete, and all they had done was replace main reactor components and then keep it running. These reactors are a little bit special in how they operate as well, and to explain to all of y'all how it actually plays a role in Iran's nuclear program, this is generally how a heavy water reactor works. Heavy water reactors are a little bit special because they use a special kind of coolant. Unlike normal power plant reactors or energy producing reactors, which use normal fresh water as their coolant source, heavy water reactors are not able to use normal water as their coolant. They require something called heavy water, which is a water that is made through the fusion of hydrogen and oxygen through an artificial process that actually creates a water that is more conducive to the reaction of raw uranium. This reactor actually does not require any enriched uranium fuel to operate, and as a matter of fact, operates off of raw uranium ore that is just plopped inside of the reactor vessel, and then the heavy water does its thing, and it's able to produce a limited amount of steam, or energy for the large part. Most importantly, what is most interesting about this process is that it creates a side or a byproduct of plutonium, and usually that plutonium is incredibly close or already at a weapons grade that comes off as a byproduct of this reactor's operations. This plutonium then can easily be used without any additional refinement or enrichment in a nuclear weapon that would be plutonium based instead of uranium based. It is quite clear for that reason that the Islamic Republic of Iran would consider this research reactor, or heavy water reactor in particular, to be one of the most important ones in the country. And while the Israelis may be able in the end to destroy the Fordow and Natanz facilities, or the Fordow facility still being at large at this moment and lightly damaged from prior airstrikes, it is quite obvious that if this facility is not destroyed, the Iranians will still be able to possess weapons-grade plutonium to be able to create nuclear weaponry with. And for this reason, the Israelis did go after, strike, and destroy the facility. We were able to see some more satellite footage showing us the before and after pictures of the Iraq heavy water facility, which we can see right here. We can actually see the reactor dome in this picture right here before the attack, and then we could see it after the attack. Quite clearly, the munitions did strike directly on top of the dome, exposing the reactor dome to the open air and stopping once and for all any nuclear activities that were being conducted by the Islamic Republic of Iran at this facility. The Islamic Republic of Iran did claim years ago that they did shut down the facility and had not been operating it since then, but we largely have information to show, at least yesterday, that that would be markedly untrue. To show y'all something from our map that we had yesterday, at least when the first reports of the explosion were coming out, and if we come down here to the area of Iraq, you actually will see a picture here showing a billow of white cloud almost. It's not anything else rather than something that appears to be some sort of a raw form of a white cloud that was hit. What is interesting about this is that this generally looks like it is already some form of steam. And while heavy water doesn't produce a large volume of steam, this is still a significant amount of steam, enough to say that this most likely was the steam venting out of that operational research reactor, because every nuclear reaction, even heavy water reactions, do produce some form of usable steam. And that appears to be what this is, showing that that reactor was operational up until that final minute when it was hit by the Israeli airstrike, and the damage exposed the top of the reactor dome and the boiling vessel inside of the reactor. Outside of that, it does appear that this strike was significant. We have not been able to hear of any radiological damage, at least at the moment, and last night we were able to hear that Iranian officials made a pretty surefire claim that it appeared that the facility actually was still operational, and they had claimed that every single personnel or operator at that research reactor, or heavy water reactor, had actually been evacuated before the airstrike was conducted, which, while making it sound like there were no casualties, It also makes it quite clear that if that research reactor was not operational, there wouldn't need to be a reason for staff to be present. And the reason that staff were present is because the reactor was still operational. Outside of that, we have also been able to hear that more airstrikes have been hitting the Islamic Republic of Iran overnight. We have been able to see significant airstrikes from just about everywhere. This explosion here actually occurred in a significant Iranian city near to the area of Tehran, which we can see in this clip right here. The smoke plume is solid white. We believe it may be another propellant fire for solid rocket fuel or some form of gunpowder, but it is quite a significant explosion. We also were able to hear inside of the capital of Tehran that the streets had pretty much emptied out as a result of these airstrikes and the endless evacuation orders that were issued both by the United States of America and the State of Israel. Iranian state media has insisted that the streets are empty because everyone in the city just happened to go on holiday, all at the same time, all as a major war is breaking out over their skies and also looming from the United States here in the future. But here are the empty streets of Tehran. As you can clearly see, most of the city appears to be completely abandoned. A lot of people have already left and fled for the other surrounding cities further outside of Tehran that may not become military targets here in the future, or may become one. We're not entirely sure yet. Outside of that, while the Iranian police have been knocked out, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps has not been, and they are now calling for a complete internet shutdown across the country. According to the IRGC-affiliated Tasnim news agency, they have called for a full internet shutdown in Iran amid the ongoing conflict with Israel, describing it as a necessity and, quote, to disrupt enemy cyber attacks and drone operations. It does appear that the Islamic Republic of Iran is trying to stop additional information getting out of their country that is showing that they're getting hit heavily and damaged significantly, and they are hoping that the Israelis will most likely keep their internet on, so that way if any other missile strikes are conducted that are able to cause any sort of casualties or fatalities, that will be the only information getting out, and the successful Israeli strikes on Iran will not be getting out whatsoever, at least at this moment. So it does appear that the Iranians are once again trying to clamp down on the security side of things. Outside of that, we've also been able to see that the Iranians have been continuing to launch ballistic missiles over the course of the past 24 hours. We were able to see that they once again showed more footage of the True Promise 3 missile operations targeting and attempting to strike Israel. We did see yesterday that unfortunately they had a good deal of success. One of these missiles actually hit a significant hospital within the area of the Be'er-Sheva city area, and we also were able to hear of several impacts inside of Tel Aviv. Nevertheless, here's the footage. It clearly can be seen that a significant volley of missiles have been fired over the past 24 hours, and we have been able to see that as well in the air interception reports over the state of Israel. Outside of that, the Israeli Air Force has been fervently attempting to launch missiles and destroy any ballistic missile launchers or transport erector launchers that could be found throughout the country. And we were able to see one clip here showing the confirmed destruction of a ballistic missile launcher from just the past few hours. Here's the clip. We can also see another picture also showing us another destroyed launcher that appears to have been knocked out just recently as well. The damage is fresh. We have not been able to see any rusting. Whenever vehicles like this catch on fire, rusting is very quick to follow, usually within the next day or two. So that means that these ballistic missile launchers were destroyed in about the past 36 hours at the minimum, meaning that the Israelis are still targeting and destroying these ballistic missile launchers as rapidly and effectively as they can. It is starting to show a little bit, at least with how the Iranians are attempting to respond to the Israelis, because we did see that there was a low tempo of missile fire for some time, although it's starting to ramp back up, possibly showing that they were trying to hide the ballistic missile launchers, or the TELs, for a while before they brought them back out and started to launch attacks on the Israelis again. So Israeli air operations do have a positive impact, from what we can tell at the moment, in suppressing Iranian ballistic missile operations against the state of Israel. Outside of that, we also were able to see these missiles actually flying over Iraq on their way to Israel a while ago, and the sound of them is terrifying. That's the end of that clip. Almost similar to that of an MLRS firing in reality, but still a very interesting clip to hear. Outside of that, we've also been able to hear that inside of the state of Israel, there were air interceptions that were being conducted just a little while ago. We were able to see those interceptions over Tel Aviv in this clip right here. We can also hear the impacts as well. There were impacts that were recorded. Outside of that, we've also been able to hear that there was actually debris of some of the shot down missiles, including the plumbing and engine works of this Shahab 3 intermediate range ballistic missile, or shorter range ballistic missile, that was shot down over Tel Aviv just a little while ago. And you actually could see the plumbing and engine works of the missile right here in this picture. Outside of that, air defense reports from Israel are not looking that positive today. We have been able to hear that only 65% of the missiles launched by Iran in the last 24 hours were intercepted by the country's Iron Dome system versus almost 90% in the days before. We are not exactly sure what is leading to this discrepancy in Israel's ability to shoot down these missiles today. We do understand that they are far away from running out of interceptors at the moment, and so we are not exactly sure why the interception rate was only 65%. This is abysmally low. I got to make that incredibly clear. Westernized air defenses usually have an incredibly high air interception rate, and Ukraine, which uses a hybrid westernized air defense system and almost Soviet or technical style air defense system, usually has a higher than 80% interception rate, almost 90% on most days, even using missile and gun-based air defense systems combined. The state of Israel is starting to show that there may be a discrepancy or a weakness in missile-based defense systems, primarily as your main line of aerial defense. We have been able to see that Ukraine has been able to guarantee that all threats, no matter what speed or variety, can be engaged and shot down with a great deal of success with gun and missile-based interceptors. So it does appear that, at least for lessons learned here in the Greater West, that most countries need to develop, research, or re-implement gun-based air defense systems and not entirely rely on missile-based air defense systems like most Western countries, including the United States, are currently relying on right now, as we are getting clearer evidence and information here from both the ongoing war in Ukraine and the ongoing conflict in the Middle East that gun and missile-based air interceptions appear to be far more successful than purely missile-based or purely gun-based interceptions. We also were able to hear outside of that there were more interceptions being conducted inside of northern Israel today, near to the area of Haifa. Moving on to our next clip, you can actually see one of the Iranian ballistic missiles coming in. And then in our next clip right here, you can actually see the pictures of the interceptions. It is quite clear that the Iranians are continuing to ramp up their attacks once again and are attempting to target significant areas of population centers and industrial targets, such as the port of Haifa, the city of Tel Aviv, the city of Netanya, the city of Ashdod, and the city of Jerusalem, and also Beersheba as well. We cannot forget the hospital attack that occurred there last night. Outside of that, it does appear that the United States is soon on the heels of what's going on in this region and appears to be poised at this moment to join the Israelis against the Islamic Republic of Iran here in the very near future. We were able to hear that a U.S. statement now says that practically every U.S. naval asset, most likely UK naval asset as well, has left the Middle East, as well as non-sheltered U.S. Air Force aircraft that were at Al Udeid Air Base. All U.S. Navy vessels previously forward deployed in naval support activity Bahrain have been repositioned outside of the Persian Gulf due to the threat of encirclement. We have also been able to hear that blood shipments have also been brought in as well by the United States, as medical logistics have been reinforced with pre-positioned blood supplies deployed across the CENTCOM region in case U.S. forces are attacked. We also were able to hear additional information on top of that, that there is another Situation Room meeting going on at this moment with the President of the United States. That was to be held at 1 p.m., I believe, Eastern Time. And so either that is going to happen in 15 minutes, or if it's on Central Time, which is the time zone that we're on recording this video for this channel, that means that this meeting is already underway. Outside of that, we have also been able to hear that the United States of America's special envoy to Syria has also made an interesting message as well, and has stated that it would be a very bad decision for Hezbollah to get involved in any way in the Iran-Israel conflict currently. It does appear that the United States is getting ready to join this war. The removal of forces that were in compromised positions is something that would generally show us that there is a threat of encirclement due to future hostile actions that will be taken. The shipments of blood supplies across the entirety of the Middle East is something that is a very big telltale sign. The provision of perishable blood sources or blood items such as those is something that usually is only done if there's going to be an active combat scenario. And the fact that there are blood supplies being brought in is showing that there will be a situation here in the near future where there will be possible casualties that have to be taken care of medically in the Middle East before they can be shipped on to a more significant and more thorough hospital in a place like Germany or inside of the continental United States itself. This is, of course, showing us that more military preparations are being made, along with the next Situation Room meeting that's going to be happening again. We have also been able to hear inside of Iraq that more U.S. evacuations are being conducted from Baghdad. We are able to see 2 U.S. government flights being made on Dash 8 aircraft out of Baghdad, which is once again showing us that there appears to be more evacuations of U.S. government personnel, because both of these Dash 8s are currently operated by the U.S. Department of State and the Department of Defense. So it is quite clear, once again, from that information, that we are getting non-vital U.S. personnel out of harm's way for the hostile actions that are going to be coming in the future. And those hostile actions are not that far away. We are already seeing that Iranian-affiliated terrorist groups, such as this one here, in fact, this is the militia leader of the Al-Nujaba, which is a militia inside of Iraq that is extremist and generally aligned with the Islamic Republic of Iran, that threatened U.S. citizens, soldiers, diplomats, and interests in the region if anything is done to the Iranian supreme leader. It is quite clear by this letter here that beyond this guy looking like a Muppet for a large part, that it is quite evident that the Iranians are going to be getting a decent amount of proxy support if the United States joins, and that non-vital U.S. personnel in the area could be at risk of getting harmed. Even more specifically, U.S. naval assets inside the Persian Gulf could have been encircled, because we still are hearing that the Iranian government is threatening to close the Strait of Hormuz, and closing the economically important waterway remained an option, at least according to Sky News, from Iranian sources that they have been able to hear from. So it does appear evident at this point that the Iranians are still considering a closure of the Persian Gulf and attempting to conduct economic warfare pretty much against the entirety of the world through that action to be able to try and achieve victory in some diplomatic resolution in the current ongoing conflict. The Israelis have started to make it fairly clear, however, that the Iranians will never see that day. The Israelis are saying that even without U.S. involvement, they are going to be bringing the Iranians to their knees within about 2 to 3 weeks. But if the United States joins, this conflict could be over in just a matter of days. We have also been able to hear that they have vowed that Khamenei will no longer exist after this conflict is over or during the conflict, as Israel's defense minister Katz said that Iran's Supreme Leader Khamenei cannot continue to exist, and it appears that the Israelis will be moving forward with any actions they can find or make that will ensure that Khamenei, the supreme leader and Ayatollah of Iran, will no longer survive this conflict or the aftermath of the conflict. We've also been able to hear, outside of all of our Middle Eastern news at the moment, that the Russian Federation actually issued a warning in its own way against U.S. involvement against Iran, and I will be showing you all that statement right here.
Особо предостеречь Вашингтон от военного вмешательства в ситуацию, что стало бы крайне опасным шагом с поистине непредсказуемыми негативными последствиями.
This statement seems like it would be a Russian threat to the United States, but I do want to point out to all of y'all that there is a certain way that diplomatic wordage works that shows us that this isn't a extremely serious threat, at least from the Russians at this point. They said they would like for the United States not to get involved because it could create an extremely dangerous step with unpredictable consequences, meaning that the Russians won't get involved, but they don't like what it's going to do, and it might end up destabilizing the Russian position in the Middle East. That's generally what the diplomatic wordage is saying. It's not saying that the Russians are going to join the conflict. It's pretty much just the Russians yapping and making it look like they're standing up for Iran, while at the same time not being there for them if the U.S. truly did get involved. We have also been able to hear that in the meantime, there's oddly enough been a deteriorating security situation between the People's Republic of China and the Russian Federation, as Chinese hackers have been stealing Russian military secrets despite Putin and Xi Jinping's boundless partnership, the unlimited soup and salad partnership that we heard about a while ago, which has never been followed through on. China collects data on, among other things, modern combat tactics, Western weapons, and Russian experience at the front. And meanwhile, the Russian Federal Security Service, in an internal document leaked to the newspapers, directly calls China an enemy hunting for Russian military technology. It is quite clear that while the Russians and the Chinese claim on a public stage that they are allies, that both sides are incredibly untrusting each other, and it does appear that the People's Liberation Army's Special Support Forces are continuing to hack into Russia's mainframe systems for their military and are continuing to steal vital military intelligence and information, not only on the Russian military, but on lessons and intelligence learned on the war in Ukraine so far. Even still, the Russians are dealing with greater issues, as we have been able to hear of air attacks being conducted against the city of Orenburg, which is over 1,000 kilometers, or about 750 miles away from the state of Ukraine. And here's some video of those ongoing air attacks at the moment. We hear the air defense fire coming from Russian AKs on the ground. We can see a large amount of people running up there.
Блядь, сюда что ли ебашит? Вон, блядь. Стоп.
We now hear more machine gun air defense
сюда,
fire.
блядь, летит, сука. Уши.
Now we can see the drone actually impacting over there. We don't know what it hit yet, but it did hit in Orenburg. We also got to see some additional clips as well, letting us hear the sound of air raid sirens over the city of Orenburg. And we also got this clip.
Вот как вот не будет страшно после таких звуков? И вот что мне делать? Хватать спящего ребенка, одевать, самой одеваться и куда бежать? Вот очень страшно всегда. Вот где-то вот с той стороны сирена орёт. Говорят, опасная пожарно-опасная тревога. Вроде как слышно было в доме. Ну, сирена намного громче, чем была озвучка.
Those are the end of the clips from Orenburg, and while it does appear that Ukrainian long-range drone strikes are happening on Orenburg, and it is quite clearly possible, as we have seen prior attacks being conducted on Naberezhny Chelny, which is about 780 miles away from the state of Ukraine as well. Once again, clearly showing us that the Ukrainians do have the range for drone attacks. The Russians have actually come up with a more creative answer, at least to the ongoing air raids on Orenburg at the moment. They are actually claiming that the Russians, the Ukrainians, are actually flying drones out of the southern border near Kazakhstan. And the drones are flying near dislocations of bases of the Russian strategic missile forces around the city of Orenburg. That claim is entirely dubious. There is absolutely no proof to show the Ukrainians are firing off any drones from the West Kazakhstan or Aktobe regions of Kazakhstan. It is quite clearly a drone attack that was fired conventionally from the state of Ukraine, like all other drone attacks, and made their way to Orenburg. It's not out of Ukraine's realm of possibility to be able to hit Orenburg. We have been able to see them hit Ufa before, and we've even seen them hit Naberezhny Chelny, and even some areas within the Perm Oblast as well, quite clearly showing that they can hit Orenburg without a shadow of a doubt. It'd be a rather easy venture for them. But the Russians are trying to make it sound like there's some sort of a greater scheme now going on with the Kazakhs, who may be supporting or helping out Ukrainian drone operations against the Russian state. Nevertheless, that is all of the major news that we have right now. I got to thank you all so much once again for watching, and if y'all have enjoyed, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and support us on Patreon, link in the description below. We got to give a massive shout out and a thanks to all of our current patrons, because all of y'all help to make this channel possible and help us to keep this thing running day in and day out. So a massive thanks to all of y'all once again. And with that, also, by the way, if y'all have made it to this point in the video right now, make sure to put ARAK in the comments section below.
The Iron Dome, known for neutralizing short-range rockets from Gaza, was never meant to handle one-ton warheads or hypersonic payloads. Yet it's working overtime. David Sling, the next layer, intercepts cruise missiles and medium-range threats. Further up the ladder, Arrow 2 and Arrow 3, designed to knock out ballistic missiles at the edge of space. Arrow 3 is Israel's exo-atmospheric assassin. But even this billion-dollar dome can be saturated. And Iran's new tactic is to launch simultaneous salvos from multiple locations, like Lebanon, Syria, Yemen, forcing Israel's defense systems to engage targets faster than they were built to. Iran's arsenal is no longer a mystery. The skies above the Middle East are now missile corridors. In the last 72 hours, Israel has come under the heaviest aerial assault in its history. Over 300 Iranian ballistic missiles, drones and cruise weapons have torn through the airspace, flattening homes, killing civilians, and overwhelming one of the most advanced air defense networks in the world. For over a decade, Israel had built what military planners call a multi-layered kill web to stop incoming threats. But this week, the kill web bled. The Iron Dome, known for neutralizing short-range rockets from Gaza, was never meant to handle one-ton warheads or hypersonic payloads. Yet it's working overtime. David Sling, the next layer, intercepts cruise missiles and medium-range threats. Further up the ladder, Arrow 2 and Arrow 3, designed to knock out ballistic missiles at the edge of space. Arrow 3 is Israel's exo-atmospheric assassin. But even this billion-dollar dome can be saturated. And Iran's new tactic is to launch simultaneous salvos from multiple locations, like Lebanon, Syria, Yemen, forcing Israel's defense systems to engage targets faster than they were built to. Iran's arsenal is no longer a mystery. Forget the old Shahab missiles. The latest barrages have featured Khyber Shekan, satellite-guided, fin-stabilized and built to slip past the Iron Dome. Fatah, Iran's claimed hypersonic missile. It maneuvers mid-flight, making interception near impossible. Ghadar and Imad, precision-turned MRBMs with a range of over 1,800 kilometers, and Khorram Shaher 4, dubbed the nuclear mule, capable of carrying warheads heavier than a small truck. Most of these are solid fuel powered, meaning they can launch quickly without a fueling window. This gives Israel just minutes to detect and destroy. Missiles hit Tel Aviv, Haifa, and even neighborhoods near the US Embassy. The Iron Dome's 90% success rate sounds impressive, until the 10% that breaks through, killing civilians and setting cities ablaze. Iran's new method, as its Revolutionary Guard claims, forces Israeli radars to target decoys, drones, and actual missiles all at once, overwhelming its logic circuits. And while the Arrow 3 can intercept missiles in space, each unit costs millions, and Israel has limited stockpiles. In fact, a dozen ballistic missiles last month slipped past interceptors and struck near IDF bases unscathed. Behind Israel's survival is America's muscle. The THAAD system, shipped into Israel after the October strikes, is one of the few interceptors capable of hitting missiles at high altitudes. Its radar scans over 1,800 miles. But there's a problem. The US only makes a few dozen THAAD missiles each year. The USS Carl Vinson now prowls the Arabian Sea with over 60 aircraft aboard, including the F-35s. US Navy destroyers in the eastern Mediterranean have helped shoot down Iranian missiles. And Jordan, America's silent ally, has intercepted drones in its airspace, acting as Israel's indirect buffer. But Israel wants more. It needs bunker-busting bombs. The 30,000-pound GBU-57s that only America has. Without them, Iran's underground nuclear sites can't be destroyed. Iran fired 200-plus missiles in the first 2 days, but since then the rate has slowed down. This is because Israeli strikes have destroyed Iran's launch pads, fuel depots, and key commanders. The Institute for the Study of War says Iran had planned a 1,000 missile retaliation. They have barely crossed 300. Precision Israeli raids have hammered sites in Tabriz, Natanz, and Tehran. Energy facilities, missile silos, and command bunkers gone. Iran's elite forces are in disarray, and its skies are open. But this isn't over. Iran still has heavy payload cruise missiles it hasn't used so far. Israel still hasn't touched certain nuclear bunkers. And the US hasn't yet to greenlight the finishing strike.